Karoline Leavitt had always been someone who believed in the power of words. Growing up in a small town where nothing much ever happened, she found solace in books and newspapers. Her parents often joked that their daughter was destined to become either a writer or an investigator because she was always asking questions. Why did this happen? Who made that decision? What's really going on behind closed doors? From a young age, Karoline knew she wanted to be the kind of person who could uncover hidden truths and bring them into the light. After graduating from high school, Karoline attended a modest liberal arts college, where she studied journalism with unwavering dedication. While her classmates were busy enjoying parties and weekend getaways, Karoline spent countless hours in the library, poring over old newspaper articles and learning about the great journalists who came before her. She admired reporters like Woodward and Bernstein, whose investigative work exposed corruption at the highest levels of government. But more than anything, she admired people who used their voices not for fame, but for justice. Her first big opportunity came when she landed an internship at a local news station during her senior year of college. It wasn't glamorous work. She started out fetching coffee, organizing files, and transcribing interviews, but Karoline didn't mind. Every task, no matter how small, felt like a step closer to her dream. One day, while helping one of the senior reporters prepare for a story, she stumbled upon a lead that nobody else seemed interested in pursuing. It involved a city council member accused of embezzling funds meant for public schools. The details were murky, and most of the staff brushed it off as too complicated or not worth our time. But Karoline saw something different, a chance to make a difference. She spent weeks digging through documents, interviewing sources, and piecing together the puzzle. When she finally presented her findings to her editor, he was skeptical at first. After all, what could a wide-eyed intern possibly know that seasoned professionals didn't? But Karoline's persistence paid off. Her report aired on the evening news, sparking outrage among viewers and prompting an official investigation. Within months, the council member resigned, and the stolen funds were returned to the community. For the first time, Karoline realized the true impact of journalism, not just as a profession but as a force for good. That breakthrough earned her a full-time position at the station after graduation. Over the next few years, she tackled stories that others avoided: environmental hazards ignored by corporations, healthcare disparities affecting low-income families, and systemic issues plaguing the education system. Each piece she wrote brought her closer to becoming the journalist she'd always dreamed of being. And yet, despite her growing reputation, Karoline remained humble. She never sought the spotlight for herself. Instead, she let the stories speak for themselves. By 2024, Karoline's hard work had paid off in ways she never imagined. She moved to a major news network, where her sharp insights and fearless reporting quickly caught the attention of audiences nationwide. People admired her ability to break down complex topics into relatable terms, making even the driest subjects feel urgent and relevant. Whether she was covering election fraud, corporate greed, or social injustice, Karoline approached every assignment with the same level of passion and integrity. Her name became synonymous with trust, a rare commodity in today's fast-paced media landscape. It wasn't long before invitations began pouring in, from conferences and panels to late-night talk shows eager to feature her perspective. Among these offers was one that stood out above the rest: an invitation to appear on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. Known for his quick wit and incisive commentary, Colbert's program attracted millions of viewers each night. Appearing on his show wasn't just a career milestone. It was a chance to reach an even wider audience and share her message with people who might not otherwise tune in to traditional news outlets. Karoline accepted the offer without hesitation, excited to discuss her latest exposé. This particular investigation had taken months to complete and revealed shocking details about a powerful lobbying group manipulating legislation to benefit its wealthy clients. The story had already gained significant traction online, sparking debates across social media platforms. Karoline hoped her appearance on Colbert's show would amplify the conversation and encourage viewers to demand accountability from their leaders. As the date of the taping approached, Karoline prepared diligently. She reviewed her notes, rehearsed potential talking points, and even watched past episodes of The Late Show to get a sense of Colbert's style. She knew the host had a knack for blending humor with substance, and she appreciated his willingness to tackle serious issues alongside lighter fare. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that something unexpected might happen. After all, live television was unpredictable by nature, and Colbert was known for throwing curveballs at his guests. Little did she know, her instincts were about to prove eerily accurate. On the evening of the show, Karoline arrived at the studio dressed in a sleek navy blue suit, her confidence bolstered by the knowledge that she had done everything possible to prepare. As she waited backstage, she listened to the warm-up comedian entertain the audience, laughing along with the jokes despite the butterflies fluttering in her stomach. When her cue came, she stepped onto the brightly lit stage, greeted by thunderous applause. Colbert welcomed her warmly, praising her recent achievements and setting the tone for what seemed like a friendly, engaging interview. For the first few minutes, things went exactly as planned. Karoline spoke passionately about her work, sharing anecdotes from her investigation and explaining why the issue mattered so much to everyday Americans. The audience hung on her every word, clearly captivated by her energy and conviction. Just as she began to relax, however, Colbert leaned forward with a mischievous glint in his eye, and everything changed. What followed was a moment that would test Karoline's resolve, challenge her principles, and ultimately define her legacy as a journalist. As Karoline Leavitt sat across from Stephen Colbert on the brightly lit stage of The Late Show, she felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. The energy in the room was electric, with the audience hanging on to every word she said. So far, the conversation had been smooth. Colbert praised her for her fearless reporting, and she shared some behind-the-scenes stories about how she uncovered corruption within a powerful lobbying group. It seemed like everything was going according to plan. But then, just as Karoline began diving deeper into the details of her investigation, Colbert leaned forward slightly in his chair. His signature smirk appeared, and he tilted his head as if preparing to ask something playful or lighthearted. "Karoline," he said, pausing briefly before continuing, "you've clearly done incredible work exposing this lobbying scandal. But there's been some chatter online. Some critics are saying you might have exaggerated parts of your story. Or worse yet, fabricated them entirely." The words hit Karoline like a punch to the gut. For a moment she froze, unsure if she'd heard him correctly. Fabricated? Exaggerated? Those accusations were completely unfounded. She had spent months meticulously gathering evidence, verifying sources, and cross-checking facts. Every claim in her exposé was backed by hard data, official documents, and first-hand accounts. How could anyone accuse her of making things up? The studio fell eerily silent. Even the usually lively audience seemed stunned, unsure whether to laugh, gasp, or remain quiet. Karoline blinked once, twice, trying to process what had just happened. Was this part of Colbert's comedic routine? Had he misunderstood something about her report? Or was this a deliberate attempt to stir controversy during the show? Her mind raced as she glanced at Colbert, searching for any sign that he might be joking. But his expression remained neutral, neither confirming nor denying whether the question was serious. Karoline realized quickly that she couldn't afford to stay silent. This wasn't just about her. It was about the integrity of journalism itself. If such baseless accusations went unchallenged, they could undermine not only her credibility but also the trust people placed in reporters everywhere. Taking a deep breath, Karoline straightened her posture and looked directly at Colbert. Her voice was calm but firm when she finally spoke. "Stephen," she began, choosing her words carefully, "I understand why skepticism is important in journalism. We should always question claims and demand evidence, but spreading allegations like these without proof isn't just irresponsible, it's dangerous." She paused, letting the weight of her statement sink in. The audience stirred slightly, murmuring among themselves. Some nodded in agreement while others exchanged curious glances. Karoline knew she had their attention now, and she needed to use it wisely. "I want to address this head-on," she continued, leaning forward slightly to emphasize her point. "Every single detail in my report has been thoroughly vetted. I worked with a team of researchers, legal experts, and fact-checkers to ensure accuracy. We reviewed thousands of pages of documents, conducted dozens of interviews, and followed strict ethical guidelines throughout the process. To suggest otherwise is not only false but disrespectful to the countless hours of effort that went into uncovering the truth." Colbert raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued by her response. He opened his mouth as if to interject, but Karoline pressed on, determined to make her case. "Let me give you an example," she said, her tone shifting, slightly to convey urgency. "One of the key findings in my investigation involved emails between lobbyists and government officials discussing changes to legislation that would benefit their clients. These emails weren't leaked anonymously. They came from official records obtained through Freedom of Information Act requests. They're public documents anyone can access if they know where to look." She paused again, letting the significance of her words resonate. "And that's just one piece of the puzzle. There's financial data showing illegal transfers of funds, whistleblower testimonies corroborating the timeline, and even internal memos outlining strategies to manipulate public opinion. None of this is speculation. It's all based on verifiable facts." By now, the audience was fully engaged. People who had initially been startled by Colbert's comment were now leaning forward in their seats, eager to hear more. Several broke into applause, clearly moved by Karoline's passion and conviction. Even Colbert seemed impressed, though he maintained his trademark grin. "You sound very confident in your reporting," he remarked, his tone lighter now. "But don't you think it's natural for people to question big revelations like yours? Especially when they involve powerful figures?" Karoline nodded thoughtfully, acknowledging the validity of his point. "Of course, questioning authority is essential. It's what keeps us honest. But there's a difference between healthy skepticism and spreading misinformation. When someone accuses a journalist of fabricating a story without evidence, they're not just attacking that individual, they're attacking the entire profession. And that has real consequences." She went on to explain how false accusations like these could erode public trust in media, making it harder for legitimate investigations to gain traction. "If we allow baseless claims to go unchecked, we create a culture where truth becomes subjective. Suddenly, it doesn't matter what the evidence says. All that matters is who can shout louder or spin a better narrative. That's not democracy, that's chaos." Her words struck a chord with both the live audience and viewers watching at home. Social media platforms lit up almost instantly, with clips of the exchange spreading rapidly. Viewers praised Karoline for standing her ground and called out Colbert for what many saw as an unfair line of questioning, while some defended the host, arguing that his comment was meant to provoke discussion rather than attack her personally. Others felt he had crossed a line. For Karoline, the moment was bittersweet. On one hand, she was proud of how she handled the situation, turning what could have been a damaging accusation into an opportunity to defend her work and advocate for ethical journalism. On the other hand, she couldn't help but feel frustrated that such baseless claims existed in the first place, and that they were being amplified on a national platform. As the segment drew to a close, Colbert attempted to lighten the mood with a joke, thanking Karoline for her spirited rebuttal. But she wasn't about to let him off the hook entirely. With a wry smile, she replied, "Satire has its place, Stephen, but when humor starts blurring the line between entertainment and harm, we all lose." The audience erupted into applause, once again many standing to show their support. It was clear that Karoline had won them over, not because she was perfect, but because she was genuine. In a world filled with noise and distractions, she reminded everyone of the importance of truth, accountability, and resilience. Though the interview ended shortly after, its impact lingered. For Karoline, this was more than just another late-night appearance. It was a defining moment that would shape her career and legacy moving forward. The moment the camera stopped rolling, Karoline Leavitt exhaled deeply, letting the tension in her shoulders ease just slightly. She had faced a curveball on live television, something every guest dreads, but she felt a quiet sense of pride in how she handled it. The audience's applause still echoed faintly in her ears as she stood up, shaking hands with Stephen Colbert. His expression was unreadable, a mix of amusement and mild admiration, but Karoline didn't linger to analyze it. Instead, she focused on what came next. Backstage, surrounded by producers and crew members offering congratulatory pats on the back, Karoline knew this wasn't over. While the interview segment might have ended, its ripple effects were only beginning. Social media platforms were already ablaze with reactions, and clips of her rebuttal were spreading like wildfire. People were talking about her, not just as a journalist or an investigator, but as someone who stood firmly for truth and accountability. It was both exhilarating and daunting. That night, unable to sleep, Karoline scrolled through Twitter, Reddit, and Instagram, reading posts from viewers who had watched the show. Some praised her composure under pressure. Others expressed outrage at Colbert's comment, calling it reckless and irresponsible. A few even accused her of playing the victim, though those voices were drowned out by overwhelming support. One tweet caught her eye. Karoline didn't just defend herself tonight. She defended all journalists who worked tirelessly to uncover the truth. Respect. It struck a chord deep within her. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about the broader fight for integrity in journalism. The next morning, news outlets picked up the story. Headlines ranged from Karoline Leavitt takes on Stephen Colbert to journalist school's late-night host over baseless accusations. Talk shows and podcasts began dissecting the incident, debating whether Colbert had gone too far. Some argued that his question was harmless satire, while others insisted it undermined journalistic ethics. Karoline found herself at the center of a national conversation, a position she hadn't asked for but couldn't ignore. Determined to keep the focus on the issues rather than herself, Karoline decided to seize the momentum. She appeared on several morning shows and radio programs over the following days, using each opportunity to reiterate the importance of fact-based reporting. During one interview, she explained, "When people hear accusations like fake news, they often forget that behind every story is a team of professionals working tirelessly to get things right. Yes, mistakes happen sometimes, we're human, but fabricating stories? That's not journalism. That's betrayal of public trust." Her calm demeanor and articulate responses won over skeptics and supporters alike. Viewers tuned in not just to hear her side of the story, but also to learn more about the lobbying scandal she had exposed. Many were shocked to discover the extent of corruption she had uncovered. Millions of dollars funneled illegally, legislation rewritten to benefit corporate interests, and ordinary citizens left in the dark. The more details emerged, the angrier the public became, and the louder the calls for accountability grew. Meanwhile, the lobbying group at the heart of Karoline's exposé scrambled to respond. They released a vague statement denying any wrongdoing, accusing her of cherry-picking facts to fit a narrative. But instead of backing down, Karoline doubled down. Using her newfound platform, she presented additional evidence that further corroborated her claims. She shared documents, emails, and financial records that painted an undeniable picture of misconduct. Each revelation added fuel to the fire, keeping the scandal front and center in the media cycle. As the days turned into weeks, Karoline's resolve inspired others to speak out. Journalists across the country rallied around her, praising her courage and condemning attempts to discredit her work. Even some of Colbert's colleagues weighed in, questioning whether his line of questioning had crossed the line between humor and harm. Late-night hosts typically enjoyed wide latitude when it came to poking fun at guests, but this situation felt different. Karoline wasn't there to promote a movie or a book. She was representing an entire profession. Critics argued that Colbert's joke had trivialized serious allegations, potentially damaging the public's perception of journalism as a whole. For Colbert, the backlash was unavoidable. Clips of the interview resurfaced repeatedly, accompanied by commentary from pundits and ordinary viewers alike. Some defended him, saying his job was to entertain, not educate. Others pointed out that entertainment shouldn't come at the expense of truth. Ratings for The Late Show dipped slightly in the aftermath, prompting concerns among network executives. In response, Colbert addressed the controversy during his next episode. "Let me start by saying I have immense respect for journalists like Karoline Leavitt," he began, his tone unusually serious. "They do vital work, and we need them now, more than ever. My comment last week was intended to spark discussion, not to undermine anyone's credibility. If it came across differently, I apologize." While the apology was met with mixed reactions, many felt it lacked sincerity. To some, it seemed like damage control rather than genuine remorse. For Karoline, however, the apology mattered less than the larger lesson. What happened on that stage wasn't just about her or Colbert. It was about the responsibility everyone in media shares to uphold standards of honesty and fairness. Behind the scenes, Karoline continued pushing forward with her investigation. She filed a formal complaint against the lobbying group, providing authorities with a trove of new evidence. Her actions sparked multiple investigations, leading to subpoenas, hearings, and eventually, arrests. High-profile figures implicated in the scandal resigned or stepped away from their positions, leaving the organization in disarray. For the first time in years, ordinary citizens began to see tangible results from holding powerful entities accountable. Through it all, Karoline remained humble. Despite the accolades pouring in, from awards to speaking invitations, she never lost sight of why she started this journey in the first place. Journalism wasn't about fame or recognition. It was about shining a light in the darkest corners and demanding justice for those who couldn't fight for themselves. Looking back, Karoline realized the Colbert incident had been a turning point. It tested her resilience, challenged her principles, and forced her to confront uncomfortable truths about the state of modern media. But it also reminded her of the power of standing firm in the face of adversity. Every accusation, every doubt, every attempt to silence her only strengthened her resolve to keep fighting, for the truth, for accountability, and for the future of journalism itself. And as she prepared for yet another round of interviews and appearances, Karoline knew one thing for certain: this was just the beginning. In the weeks that followed her appearance on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, Karoline Leavitt found herself thrust into a whirlwind of attention. The controversy surrounding Colbert's accusation had sparked debates far beyond what anyone could have anticipated, and Karoline was at the center of it all. But instead of letting the noise overwhelm her, she used this moment to amplify her message and hold those in power accountable. The lobbying group at the heart of her exposé wasn't about to go down without a fight. As public outrage grew and investigations intensified, they launched a counteroffensive. First came a series of carefully worded press releases, attempting to paint themselves as victims of misinformation spread by overzealous reporters like Karoline. Then came interviews with sympathetic pundits where lobbyists claimed their actions were misunderstood or misrepresented. They even hired high-profile PR firms to craft narratives questioning the validity of Karoline's evidence. But Karoline wasn't fazed. She knew better than most how powerful entities tried to muddy the waters when cornered. Rather than engaging in a war of words, she doubled down on transparency. In a bold move, she published an open letter online, addressing both the lobbying group and the public directly. The letter laid out, step by step, how she had uncovered the scandal, from filing Freedom of Information Act requests to verifying documents with independent experts. She included excerpts of emails, financial records, and internal memos, evidence so damning that no amount of spin could dismiss it entirely. "I'm not asking you to take my word for it," she wrote in the letter. "I'm asking you to look at the facts. These aren't opinions, they're verifiable truths. And if you still doubt me, I encourage you to dig deeper yourself." The response was overwhelming. Thousands of people downloaded the documents she shared, poring over them to understand the full scope of the corruption. Activists organized protests outside the lobbying group's headquarters, demanding resignations and reforms. Lawmakers who had previously ignored the issue suddenly found themselves under pressure to act. Within days, congressional committees announced formal investigations, issuing subpoenas to key figures implicated in the scandal. For the lobbying group, things went from bad to worse. Executives began defecting, fearing legal repercussions. One whistleblower, a mid-level manager who had grown disillusioned with the organization's unethical practices, reached out to Karoline privately, offering even more explosive information. This insider revealed secret meetings between lobbyists and politicians, detailing quid pro quo arrangements that violated federal laws. With this new evidence in hand, Karoline worked closely with investigators to ensure justice would be served. While the lobbying group crumbled under scrutiny, another battle played out in the court of public opinion. Social media remained ablaze with discussions about Colbert's role in the controversy. Clips of his apology continued to circulate, but many viewers felt it fell short. Some argued he should have issued a clearer retraction, while others called for accountability beyond mere words. A Change.org petition, urging Colbert's show to dedicate an entire episode to discussing journalistic ethics, garnered tens of thousands of signatures. Colbert himself seemed aware of the growing backlash. During subsequent episodes, he avoided making jokes about journalism or reporters, perhaps realizing the sensitivity of the topic. Yet his attempts to move past the incident clashed with lingering questions about his responsibility as a prominent figure in media. Critics pointed out that late-night hosts wield significant influence, shaping public perception through satire and commentary. When that influence is misused, even unintentionally, it can have real-world consequences. Karoline addressed this tension during an appearance on a popular morning talk show. Asked whether she thought Colbert owed her or the journalism community a stronger apology, she chose her words carefully. "I don't think it's about apologies," she said. "What matters is learning from this experience. Satire has immense power to challenge authority and spark conversations, but it also carries a responsibility. If we laugh at accusations that undermine trust in journalism, we risk normalizing them. That's dangerous." Her remarks resonated deeply, striking a chord with journalists and viewers alike. Many took to social media to echo her sentiments, praising her for focusing on the bigger picture rather than personal grievances. Even some of Colbert's colleagues acknowledged the importance of balancing humor with accountability. Trevor Noah, host of The Daily Show, dedicated part of an episode to discussing the ethics of satire in journalism. "We can't forget that our job is to inform, not confuse," he said. "And sometimes laughing at something doesn't mean it's okay." As the dust settled, Karoline emerged stronger than ever. Her name became synonymous with resilience and integrity, qualities that inspired countless aspiring journalists. Universities invited her to give commencement speeches, where she urged graduates to stay true to their values despite challenges. Podcasts and documentaries featured her story, highlighting how one person's determination could expose corruption and inspire change. Awards flooded in, including prestigious honors from journalism associations and advocacy groups. Yet amidst the accolades, Karoline remained grounded. She often reflected on the lessons she'd learned during this tumultuous period. "This wasn't just about me," she told an interviewer during a particularly candid moment. "It was about reminding everyone why journalism matters. We live in a world where misinformation spreads faster than ever before. People are bombarded with conflicting narratives, leaving them unsure of what to believe. Our job isn't just to report the news, it's to protect the truth." Her commitment to this mission led her to launch a new initiative aimed at supporting investigative journalists. Partnering with nonprofit organizations, she helped create a fund to provide resources and legal assistance to reporters tackling complex stories. She also advocated for stricter regulations governing lobbying activities, testifying before Congress about the need for greater transparency. Her testimony drew widespread praise, with lawmakers vowing to introduce bipartisan legislation addressing the issues she raised. By early 2025, the lobbying scandal had resulted in several high-profile convictions, including prison sentences for top executives involved in illegal schemes. The fallout prompted sweeping reforms within the industry, forcing other lobbying groups to adopt stricter ethical guidelines. For millions of Americans, the case served as a wake-up call, a reminder that unchecked power could corrupt even the most respected institutions. As for Stephen Colbert, his ratings stabilized after the initial dip, but the incident left a lasting mark on his career. While he continued to entertain audiences with his signature wit, he approached political topics with greater caution. Behind the scenes, sources reported that Colbert had personally reached out to Karoline months after the interview, expressing regret for any harm caused. Though their conversation remained private, insiders claimed it was heartfelt and reflective. Looking back, Karoline saw the Colbert incident not as a low point, but as a catalyst for growth. It tested her resolve, challenged her principles, and ultimately strengthened her commitment to fighting for justice. Every obstacle she faced only reinforced her belief in the transformative power of journalism. And though the road ahead promised more challenges, Karoline faced them with unwavering determination. For her, the fight wasn't just about exposing wrongdoing. It was about ensuring that future generations inherited a world where truth prevailed over lies and accountability triumphed over impunity. Months after the whirlwind of controversy surrounding her appearance on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, Karoline Leavitt found herself in a place she had never imagined, not just as a journalist, but as a symbol of resilience and integrity. The scandal involving the lobbying group had reached its climax, with multiple arrests, resignations, and sweeping reforms being implemented to prevent similar abuses of power in the future. But for Karoline, the real victory wasn't in the headlines or the accolades. It was in knowing that her work had made a tangible difference. One crisp autumn morning, Karoline sat at her desk, sipping coffee while scrolling through emails. Her inbox was flooded with messages from people across the country, ordinary citizens thanking her for exposing corruption, students seeking advice on pursuing careers in journalism, and even whistleblowers reaching out to share new leads. It was overwhelming, but also deeply humbling. She realized that her story had inspired others to believe they too could stand up against injustice, no matter how daunting it seemed. Reflecting on everything that had happened, Karoline agreed to sit down for an in-depth interview with a renowned podcast host. The conversation took place in a cozy studio, where soft lighting created an intimate atmosphere. As the host asked her to recount the events leading up to her clash with Stephen Colbert, Karoline paused, collecting her thoughts before speaking. "It's funny," she began, her voice tinged with both amusement and seriousness. "When I walked onto that stage, I thought I was there to talk about my investigation. Instead, I ended up defending not just my work, but the very foundation of what journalism stands for. At first, I'll admit, I felt blindsided. But looking back now, I see it as a turning point, a moment that forced me to confront uncomfortable truths about the state of media today." She went on to explain how the experience taught her the importance of staying grounded in the face of adversity. "There will always be critics," she said, "people who try to discredit your work, question your motives, or twist your words. What matters is how you respond. You can let those voices drown you out, or you can use them as fuel to push harder, dig deeper, and prove why your voice deserves to be heard." Her words resonated deeply with listeners, many of whom were grappling with their own struggles in a world increasingly divided by misinformation and distrust. Social media lit up with reactions, with fans praising Karoline for her honesty and vulnerability. One listener tweeted, "Karoline isn't just a journalist. She's a reminder that courage and conviction still exist in this chaotic world." As the months passed, Karoline continued to build on the momentum sparked by her exposé. She became a sought-after speaker, traveling to universities, conferences, and community events to share her insights on investigative reporting and ethical journalism. Her talks weren't just lectures, they were calls to action. She urged audiences to ask tough questions, demand transparency from their leaders, and support independent journalism dedicated to uncovering the truth. But perhaps her most impactful project came in the form of a nonprofit organization she co-founded alongside fellow journalists and activists, called the Truth Initiative. The organization aimed to provide resources and training to aspiring reporters, particularly those from underrepresented communities. Through grants, mentorship programs, and workshops, the Truth Initiative empowered a new generation of storytellers to tackle complex issues without fear of intimidation or censorship. Karoline also collaborated with lawmakers to draft legislation strengthening protections for whistleblowers and expanding access to public records. Her advocacy earned her recognition on Capitol Hill, where she testified multiple times about the need for greater accountability in government and corporate sectors. Lawmakers credited her efforts with helping pass landmark reforms, including stricter regulations on lobbying activities and increased penalties for illegal financial dealings. Despite her growing fame, Karoline remained fiercely committed to staying true to her roots. She often returned to her hometown, visiting schools and libraries to speak with young people about the power of storytelling. During one such visit, a shy teenager approached her after her presentation, clutching a notebook filled with scribbled ideas. "I want to be like you when I grow up," the girl whispered nervously. Karoline smiled warmly, kneeling down to meet her eye to eye. "You already have everything you need inside you," Karoline replied. "All it takes is curiosity, determination, and the courage to keep going, even when things get hard. And remember, you don't have to be perfect, just be honest and the rest will follow." For Karoline, moments like these reminded her why she started this journey in the first place. Journalism wasn't about fame or accolades. It was about giving a voice to those who couldn't speak for themselves and shining a light on the shadows, where injustice thrived. Every success, every setback, and every challenge along the way had shaped her into the person she was today. A person unafraid to stand firm in her beliefs and fight for what was right. Meanwhile, Stephen Colbert's career took a slightly different trajectory in the wake of the controversy. While his show remained popular, he adopted a more measured approach to discussing sensitive topics. His jokes became less biting, focusing instead on fostering meaningful conversations about politics, culture, and society. Behind the scenes, sources reported that Colbert had taken steps to educate himself and his team about the responsibilities of satire in journalism. Though he never publicly revisited the incident with Karoline, insiders claimed it left a lasting impression on him, prompting a subtle shift in his hosting style. By 2026, Karoline's influence extended far beyond the world of journalism. She published a memoir titled Truth Under Fire, chronicling her experiences, from her early days as a wide-eyed intern to her rise as a fearless investigator. The book quickly became a bestseller, praised for its raw honesty and inspiring message. Critics hailed it as a must-read for anyone passionate about justice and accountability, while readers lauded Karoline for her relatability and authenticity. In the final chapter of her memoir, Karoline reflected on the lessons she'd learned throughout her journey. "Life doesn't always go according to plan," she wrote. "Sometimes you find yourself facing challenges you never expected. But those moments, those tests of character, are where growth happens. They force you to dig deep to discover what truly matters. For me, it's always been about the truth, not because it's easy, but because it's worth fighting for." Karoline's story served as a testament to the enduring power of resilience and integrity. In a world often clouded by noise and division, she stood as a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest times one voice could spark change. And though her journey was far from over, she faced whatever lay ahead with unwavering determination, ready to continue shining a light on the truths that mattered most.